What's up, everyone? Welcome back to our 10th and final episode of Interviewing the Affluent Season 1. My name is Conrad Savariau, and I am the founder and CEO of Affluent Clothing. For those of you who don't know, we are a mission-based streetwear brand that promotes the idea that wealth is a matter of inspiration. While there are many different ways to describe affluence, one may believe that it all ties back to wealth and how we express our wealthiness. Affluent Clothing, however, would like to redefine affluence and showcase this idea as a mindset rather than a lifestyle. Through these interviews, we hope to expand the world's perspective on what the word wealth means. With that being said, it's a pleasure to be joined today by chef and owner of One Love LLC, Chef Conrad Savariau Jr. Chef, how are we doing today?
Doing well, doing well. I'm glad to be here.
I appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Before we get started, for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about yourself, your time at the university, and the history of One Love.
So, I recently started working at the university last semester. It was a good gig, so I took it. Prior to this, I ran different restaurants. There were issues within management, so on and so forth, and it just didn't have a job security, I should say. So, I found a good gig, so I stuck with it, and then with One Love LLC, during the pandemic, it kind of took off because I was doing, basically food. I cook food. I'm a chef, so I was able to deliver food to people and so on and so forth during the pandemic. A lot of people didn't want to go outside. So I'm here at Fairfield University. Basically, it's a job, a good job, but it's just a means to an end for me. I plan on focusing more on One Love LLC when I can, but I have a family to take care of, so that's why I'm here.
Most definitely, full-time students still running the business on the side. Talking a little bit to that though, where do you think One Love LLC will be in the future?
In the future, where I see it is I want to start with a food trailer, and then for it to grow into multiple food trailers and possibly be a franchise.
Got you. Getting into our interview, if there's one value that you live by, what might that be?
The one value, a major value for me, is respect. It's, to me nowadays, I think we're lacking it. We go more and more away from respecting each other. So, to me, if respect was more prevalent in our communities and things like that, we would have a lot less issues, in my opinion.
Most definitely. I think respect definitely goes a long way. Not only respecting others, but respecting ourselves and respecting the spaces that we're in as well. I talked about this in our interview with Chef Julius about just the Tully environment, not always respecting that space or respecting the people that work there, and not knowing what people are going through. Julius, he highlighted a lot of positivity in that interview, and again, respecting those people, respecting the space, and just being positive. You don't know how far your positivity can go.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Positive, it's so much easier to be negative, to be honest with you. And negativity breeds negativity as well as positivity will also breed positivity. So sometimes you got to be the bigger person, as they say, with whatever's going on around you, and kind of bring it back to, a place of positivity, because we're only human. Something's going to pop up somewhere at some point. It may not happen every day, but it'll happen, and somebody's got to be the bigger person to kind of bring us back to being positive, because once again, like you said, you never know what anybody's going through. So that in itself can affect somebody's day, whatever happened at home, person may have passed, or a loved one, whatever the case is. There's so many things. Somebody's sick. There's so many things.
Most definitely. You talked about having a family to take care of. A lot of times that does bring us fulfillment, and we see that as success. But outside of that, what would you say? How do you say you measure success?
For me, the way I measure success is once I'm successful and I can help others. That's how I measure success. Like I'm somewhat successful now, but I'm not to the point where I can really help others, and I would like to be there and to me, that measures the biggest success, is being able to help someone else be successful off of your own success.
Gotcha. So a follow up I like to ask to that response is, at what point do you have to be at before you can reach back and help others?
That's a really good question. It's something that I'm asking myself. Well, I can help people now by just talking to them and things like that. As far as being a listening ear, and because you don't need to be successful per se to help someone, because you can always be a listening ear. But as far as business wise, like being able to sustain my family, and anything that needs to be taken care of within the business that I'm running, so that I then can help someone else with their endeavor. You know what I'm saying? It's really hard to pinpoint, because you can help someone without being successful just by listening sometimes.
Most definitely.
Sometimes people just need a listening ear.
Success is also different for each person. Talking specifically about your business, and you said wanting to be sustained and getting to a certain point in your business before you can reach back and help others. I feel like the idea of just getting started is enough. Once we get started, we go through those trials and tribulations. We face those failures. We learn from those failures, and then we can teach the next person about our failures. We don't always have to get to the top before we turn around and give advice to others.
True.
We can teach them as we're still going through the process.
True. Yeah, because like you said, with failure is a good thing. I know that people hear that nowadays, and they hear it all the time, but it's true. You got to go through. That's how you learn. Certain things you'll just learn. Like, okay, I did it this way. That doesn't mean you should stop. You know what I mean? You should just keep moving and learn from your failures, because L is not a loss; it's a learning opportunity.
Most definitely. Talking about those learning opportunities, what would you do with your life today if you knew you couldn't fail?
Man, that's a question right there, man. What would I do in my life today if I knew I couldn't fail? Everything I wanted to.
Tell us a little bit about that. What's everything you wanted to do?
Man, one of my biggest things is being fully involved in what's going on in our school system, in our so-called quote unquote urban areas, because I live in Bridgeport, and I was involved in some things recently where I had to go to the Board of Ed and speak on some issues that I felt needed to be addressed, and that's probably the biggest thing that I'll get involved in. I'm not really into politics and so on and so forth, but I'm trying my best to rally more people, especially more men like myself, black men, to be involved in schools, because it's so necessary. It's a lot going on right now, and we're kind of just letting things ride, and then we're talking about it after the fact. There are some of us out there doing it, but it needs to be a lot more. And that's one of my major things, is to be more involved in like, child rearing schools and things like that. Even the nutrition program in schools, being a chef, I see what they serve. They serve these kids, and I'm like, that's not going to help develop them. I'm lost for words right now, but it's not going to help them to be, to pay attention and do the things that they need to do in school, some of the things that they're eating and stuff like that. So it's small things, or some things that we think are small, but they're not really that small, as far as the food we eat. Right. These kids that eat when they go to school, even though they're so young, and we can get away with feeding them certain things, but at the same time, it's not in their best interest,
Most definitely. I think that doesn't only apply to them as well. I'm 21. I don't really pay attention to what I put into my body. I take what's there.
Right.
I go into the telly. I take what's there. I don't really think too much about the nutritional aspects behind it. So definitely a good area to target.
And it's funny you say that. In my food, the way I cook my food is very simple. Even the ingredients I use, I don't use food that has MSG in it,
Oh,
monosodium glutamate. For that's the actual term for MSG. There, if you use things once in a while, so on and so forth, it's fine. But it's been known to cause cancer and things like that. Even some of the soul food and things like that that we enjoy to eat, eating that on a regular basis is not good. Things full with butter, sugar, and things like that, this is not good for you. So I try to stay away from that and still give you great tasting, great looking food. And it's not vegan, even though I can make all types of food. I make vegan, whatever, vegan, vegetarian, this, that, the third. But I believe that even when I am cooking my food, I might want to make things for the mass, but at the same time, I try my best to make sure that I'm giving the best product. The same things that I would give my children in my own home. You know what I mean? So that's how I cook. Because a lot of food is known to cause a lot of issues. And I don't know if you know this, but your small intestines counts for about 90% of the illnesses you have.
no, they.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. A lot of people don't know that. And it's a lot of food. There's a lot of science behind food, and it's not just cooking it. You know what I mean? It's a lot more to it, and I have a passion for it. So that's why I try to learn as much about it as I can. Because with other things, I couldn't tell you much about it.
Gotcha. So have you ever thought about like teaching classes on it per se?
I have. I've actually looked into it, and I think I'll just do it from my own, like within my own business, instead of trying to, because in order to go to like a school and teach it, I would have to get some type of certificate per se, or maybe have to go back to school and get my associates or whatever. But I'm really not interested in doing that. Certificates, I would work on, but like going back to school, nah.
Gotcha.
Nah, I had the opportunity to go to college before. I went for a semester to community college. Like, it was fine, but it was during when I was married before. That was a whole nother issue. But I went to a technical school. I'm also a certified HVAC technician.
Okay.
Yeah. Besides the chef.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Anything else you would do if you knew you couldn't fail? Now that you bring up HVAC.
I mean, one of the other things I would do too, if I knew I wouldn't fail, is like I have children with my ex-wife. It's just maybe figuring out a way for us to be better co-parents. That's an issue that I faced or dealt with, and I'm still dealing with, because I was young when I had kids, and the way I went about dealing with things wasn't the best as far as some of the things I would say. You know what I mean? I was never like physically, but I would say some crazy stuff, and when you're going through it. But I was young; I was in my 20s. You know what I mean? So it's good. Y'all ain't dealing with these type of things, so it's just a lot. And you don't get a book with it, and your parents, you may not, like my parents. They did the best they can, but they had some things they needed to learn themselves.
Right.
So
I talk about that a lot with students, though. Just understanding that our parents are doing their best according to how they were raised.
Yes, exactly.
So understanding that our parents do mean well, but they don't have all the answers.
Exactly.
Co-parenting, though, that is something that we haven't discussed yet this season. Definitely a good topic to bring up. So, as someone who has dealt with that before, can you tell me about the importance of that two-parent household, the nuances behind co-parenting?
Listen, I have a great example because I have it on both ends. My current wife that I'm married to, her and her ex-husband do a great job co-parenting. Great. My ex-wife and I, no. There's a lot of animosity and beef, even though I don't have it. At one point I was part of the issue, but this was a long time ago. I got divorced in 2008. A long time ago, I was still in my feelings. You know how it go, so on and so forth. So, but as time went on, I, all I cared about was my children. Through all of this, one of them ended up having my oldest, that's at Southern now. She ended up living with me, but she ended up having kidney failure. You know what I mean? And even that was a little struggle within it, because it's like, I was punished sometimes in the sense that I can't talk to my children when I wanted to. And it's not like I'm calling them late night. I'm being respectful. But it's just like my children are used as a my children were used as a tool in a sense. You know what I mean? And it's just a lot. And I've gone to court, been locked up, all types of craziness. And I've never been an absentee father, a deadbeat, none of that, But it was a lot of things was done out of spite, And that's why I say I can speak from either end, because my current wife that I'm with, there was none of that. Regardless of what her ex-husband did for them to divorce or what they did mutually, whatever the case is, they do what they have to do for their son, and he's striving. That's the only one they have, and he's striving. He's doing well. My oldest daughter, she's doing well. She's going to college and so on and so forth. My other children are doing all right from what I understand, but some of the things that's going on, it's just like we could have done better as parents. And notice I'm saying we, even though I know I'm not causing the issues anymore.
Still take some sort of accountability.
Always, because that's where I feel like as men or adults, people, we lack that sometimes. We're not taking responsibility for the things that, we're not holding ourselves accountable, but sometimes we want to point the finger to the next person, So, I mean, that's where I'm not, like, I literally know both ends of the spectrum, it's night and day, literally.
Most definitely. I like that you still take accountability, even though you say you're not majority of the problem, but you can do better. That is a question that we'll touch on later in the interview. So just bringing us back, knowing that failure is a possibility, how do you stay inspired and motivated every day?
I mean, I have a great, like, my wife is a great person that reminds me sometimes. I have other people that remind me too, when I'm feeling some sort of way. I'm like, man, I don't want to do this anymore, so on and so forth. My wife would be like, don't you dare give up. You've come this far. Look at, this is what you've done. And so she'll remind me of the things that I've accomplished, in that time. And we do that for each other, because she's in education and she's building something as well in that field.
I think that's the importance of having someone in your corner as well.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, we do so much that we forget what we've done in the past. It's so easy to take one failure and just be like, well, I couldn't do it.
Right.
Instead of thinking about everything that we did to get to that point. Like we said earlier, learn from that loss, strengthen ourselves from that, and just do better the next time.
Yeah, that foundation matters, somebody in your corner, whether it's a team or one person. It definitely, that's what kind of made the difference for me, because I would complain about certain things and my wife would be like, okay, you complain about what you going to do about it, and that's how I got involved in being in schools and things like that, or doing my own business.
So being involved in the schools, having your own business, still being a chef here at the university, what would you say you would like to be remembered for?
I would like to be remembered for being a positive influence, a good person, fun person, but also a stern and honest person.
Talk to us about the importance of sternness and honesty.
Well, nowadays it's tough to be stern because me being, I don't know, I guess I'm a big black guy, so if I'm assertive, it becomes aggressive to some people. You know what I mean? But with my children, it's necessary because I will not allow, with the way things are changing now, there's that whole school to prison pipeline, and I see it more, because all the things that are these children are allowed to do, these students and what have you. When they're from small, they're allowed to, they don't get in trouble if they, depending on, they could hit a child. Like my wife gave me an example, like, somebody gets jumped or whatever. There's no real recourse for these children nowadays,
Right.
which there should be.
What is there, a general suspension?
Yeah, like, so therefore, I hold my children at a higher standard because I'm originally from Jamaica, so there's certain things that we don't play with.
Oh.
You know what I mean? I'm more or less old school in the sense of when it comes to child rearing and things like that. Not too old school, but when I was going into school in Jamaica, we used to get hit by teachers. You know what I mean? Like, this is a long time ago. Not to say that this is okay, but what I'm saying is this is the era I come from.
Right.
But I take certain things from that era, you know what I mean, to say now, okay, I'm not sitting here trying to beat up my child or beat them, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I expect certain things.
Right.
And if you're not in line, then you will be punished, whether I'm taking your things, whether you're standing in the corner, whatever it is I feel that is necessary. Because if we don't do that, then they'll just continue to do whatever they want to do, and they'll end up somewhere they don't need to. They'll end up where they belong, because basically, it's like lawlessness.
Right.
Nobody's checking you along the line anywhere. You need that. Everyone needs structure. Up to a certain point, you have to have the structure, and then there comes a time when you yourself, since you've already got that structure, you now are moving in that way, and you are disciplined now to do certain things, and you have a certain respect for people and things like that. Nowadays, it's tough. When I when I started working when I was 14, so like to just see the difference that it's come to now, because more or less like when it comes to it play like in large at a larger scale, there are people getting jobs because their friends know them or whatever. They're not even qualified for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's not a good look in any way, shape, or form. And I could touch on other things like even unions and things like that. You know what I mean? Once again, all these things are great, as far as the employees concerned, but then the issue is like, do they know their job? Are they being tested on their job? Like, these are things that I used to have to do when I first started doing this,
Right.
Especially when you're working with food, just to make sure that people stay on top of what it is they're doing, because we're dealing with people and food. There's a lot of things that can happen in between that. You know
Most
what I mean?
definitely.
As far as illnesses and things like that are concerned. So it's something to be taken seriously. But once again, it goes all the way back now to just having a structure, and it starts from home. There's no structure at home. There's no foundation. So at some point, for some people, they may get lucky and they'll find somebody to kind of help rear them, but there are other people that...
So, as a follow-up to that, you talked about structure. You talked about when you talk about the jobs. You said, do they know their job? So, like, do they understand their purpose? Taking that back to your example of parenting, do you feel that it's important to explain that structure? Like, you saying the way you grew up in Jamaica and things
Mm-hmm.
like that has a big influence on your parenting style. But do your children know that? Like,
Yeah, they do. Because even I'll use, like, I'll drop I have a 9-year-old as my youngest, and I'll drop him off at his friend's house, and they'll be hanging out and what have you, but they'll sit there and play games all day, screen time all day, and I'm like, listen, when you home, because it's like a drug for these children,
Right.
And it's like when it's time to get off, it's like they're going through withdrawals, like crazy people, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes I have to check him and remind him, like, this is not that household. I understand you enjoyed yourself over there, so on and so forth. I said, don't worry. In due time, when it's nice and warm, you will all be outside. There won't be all that screen time. And when you go to your friend's house, I'm probably going to go pick your friend up, and we're going to go play some ball. We're going to go ride the bike. We're going to be active because this is not happening. I said, and I would tell him, I said, growing up, these are some of the things that I would have to deal with. I said, my father didn't care where the belt landed when it hit me. I said, you guys don't have to deal with any of that, and nor would I do that to you. But at the same time, I'm not going to allow you to just do whatever you want to do. Right. And you have to have respect. You have to have manners, common courtesy, simple things.
Things that we think are simple.
Right.
And that's definitely why I asked the question as well. A lot of times on this podcast and within the brand, we talk about social comparison, comparing ourselves to others, whether that's academically, socially, within our different households. Just understanding your structure, your foundation, and understanding why that makes you special, as opposed to looking at everybody else and trying to fit into someone else's story.
That's always been a big thing for me. I've never, since I was in high school, even my style of dress, I've never really wanted to look like everybody else. Not to say that, there's anything wrong with that. That's just always been me. I've kind of always been my own person, and I'm a critical thinker. So when everybody's going one way, I'm probably going the other way. You know what I mean? For instance, when everything was going on during the pandemic, I wasn't thinking a lot of ways that everybody else was. I was looking at everything going on. I'm like, and I'm like, there's a lot of interesting information out there. Or just from looking at the information given to you, right? I was a critical thinker. I wasn't running to go get certain things, I didn't knock anybody that did it, but I wasn't running to go get no vaccine, this, that, the third, because it didn't make sense to me. And once again, I didn't knock anybody that did it, but when people would try to say, oh, you should do this because your daughter, because at the time she was going to dialysis, I said, no. I said, I believe in my immune system. I was blessed with an immune system. You know what I mean? So there are certain things that it's just not in me to really be like everybody else. I like to think of myself as a critical thinker, and I like to think of myself as a person that tries to look at the bigger picture or the whole picture. Because I don't think some of the things because when we're given information sometimes it's real plain and real dry. And I'm like, there's no way it's just that simple and dry cut. It can't be. So when it comes to me being me, we're all individuals, It's easy to kind of just go with the flow, but sometimes when you go with the flow, you end up falling off the cliff with everybody else. You know what I mean? And I've learned that from a long time ago. When I was younger, I probably, before I hit high school and I started to kind of learn myself, I would probably, try to follow. I'm pretty sure I used to follow or whatever. But as time went on, and I realized that I'm different, and even the things that I experienced, because when I first came out here, and I lived in Springdale, which is in Stanford, and there's, I experienced some racism stuff, even as light bright as I am.
Got you. So much you just talked about. In addition to being a critical thinker, I think one of the biggest things was being your own person, but still being accepting of others.
Yes.
Keeping that in mind, in addition to everything else we talked about, with your business, with your family, your children, how do you think you can increase your value?
By learning as much as I can, talking to people like yourself, because I'm not gonna hold you. You did inspire me to get on my cookbook. I take like when I see it, you know what I mean? I love to see people doing something like yourself, doing things for themselves. These are things that add value to me. I'm a grassroots, mud roots type of person. Like I like to see. I'm a village raised the child type of person. I don't need much, But if I see us moving in a manner, and it doesn't just have to be us, because if you look on my shirt, it if we all as a like-minded people, whether black, white, or whatever, if we're like-minded and we all move in a way that we're trying to do better for everyone around us, as well as our children that are here or not here, that will be here. It's just, those are the things that I like. I'm a simple dude. I don't need, fancy cars instead of the third. I've owned, by the time I was 22, I owned 2 homes. I used to do all types of things when I was younger, you know what I mean? And I saved my money. I did different things, and I learned a lot of things the hard way. So, like, when it comes to value, I value people's time. I value people's respect. You know what I mean? And I try to reciprocate.
So being that simple dude who doesn't focus on material things, what does affluence mean to you?
Now, even before this, right, after talking to you and getting an idea as to what your clothing line was, I love the idea of it, because it's more than looking at it as wealth, as a movement, and I love it because it's like, in a sense, being aware of each other and what we have to offer the world and each other. To put it simple.
Most definitely. I talked about it before, but just seeing the value in everything that we do. No one will see the value in us if we don't see the value in ourselves. So I really do appreciate you for this interview today. A lot of things that we talked about, things I didn't plan for.
My bad, I was all over the place.
Let me tell you, a great interview. I feel like a lot will be gained from this, but before we leave, any words of advice for the viewers?
Listen, just go for your goal. You might start off doing one thing. You might be in school doing one thing, but explore. Know what you like to do, and if you want to be impactful, find somewhere that you know that you can be impactful, or that you think you may be impactful. If that doesn't work, it might be another avenue, but never give up.
And tell us what we should look forward to from the business. How can we find the business?
So as far as One Love is concerned, One Love LLC, you can find us at Instagram. That is the same handle. This is the number 1, LUV LLC on Instagram, as well as on Facebook. I also have a website, which is 1LUVCT20 at gmail.com. I'm sorry, that's my email address. my handle is the number 1 LUV CT.com, right? I should know it, but anyway,
we'll
you can get through
that. We'll check on that.
Yeah, you can get it through. You can find it through Instagram. It's right on Instagram. It's on my. It's in my bio. And then I'll be doing some pop-ups soon. Thursday, probably Thursdays and Tuesdays. And then we won the first year that Connecticut did a fresh food competition. I won that the first year with my jerk chicken dish.
Congratulations.
So thank you. So that's definitely what I'm going to bring you as soon as possible, so that you know. But that's one of the things. You guys can check me out to find out all that information as far as the pop-ups are concerned, because I'm trying to do a couple, like the Thursday night to be like the college night. Okay. So I'm not, it's a little bit more, I'll be like between $12 and $15 dishes, you know what I mean? Nothing too crazy, but it'd be well worth the money. But it's college kids, so I ain't trying to beat them in the head, you know what I mean?
And just like that concludes our final episode of season 1 of Interviewing the Affluent. I do appreciate you all for tuning in to all our episodes this season. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at Affluential Clothing, and be on the lookout for new things soon.